Okay, I think it's working now. I had it on mute apparently. I'm always every time I start this system up, I have to remember to turn the mic on, and I guess that's what happened this time. And I had so many useful things to say too. Let me move him out of the way here. So, um, I basically got the legs on last night, and I had intended to film it, but I thought, well, I'll do the. I have there's 2 legs on this guy or 4 legs on this guy. Um, you don't need to see every single one of them go on, so I'll do one leg and make sure it works, and then I can film the second one. Well, that first one took me like an hour and a half to do because I couldn't find all this hair. I couldn't find all the I couldn't find the lock end of the doll joint inside the leg. It just went in there someplace. I couldn't find it. It took me like an hour and a half to fish it out and find it, and then stick the first one in place. And I actually like the type of doll joint that has the flat lock washer as opposed to the domed one, which these have. And I'm just trying to get through these using all these ones that I have. And the reason I like the flat one is you can actually glue that flat one in place on the foam, and then you can just push it in, and it's super easy to use. This, it just got loose and rolled around, and I think it was down here in the leg. But anyway, I ended up taking so long to do the first one that I tried the second one, and by the time I found that one, it was just easier to do it. And it was the middle of the night, so I was like, well, it's basically the same thing as the way I did the arms, so that there is documentation of how it was done to some extent. I also kind of started grooming the hair. I brushed out the ears just on the front, on the backs, and left the inside the way it basically came without it being brushed out. And I kind of like the way that looks, and I think it's probably pretty close to being staying. Just now on the last feed, I brushed out the front to show how much just brushing it with a $6 cat brush, $6 or $9 cat brush, will dramatically change the texture of this fur. I don't know if that's the case in every fur. I often use it when I'm trying to quickly get rid of the machine sewing line, because you can just run it along the seam and pull out a lot of those fibers, and it makes it a lot nicer. But I also brushed out the hands, the front of the hands, and I was gonna trim off these parts, but I kind of like the way it looks, so I just decided I'd brush out the fingers, the hands, and then I'm gonna trim the fingers, and I'll do that right now. Oh, I also brushed out the tail, and it's all long and stringy on the bottom and kind of straight on the top. And I think I'll probably brush out the toes too. So I'll show you how that works. Let me change it to the other. Oh, that view. So there's his foot, and all I do is just run it, and it just dramatically changes the texture. But it'll make it easier for me to kind of define those toes having it brushed out. We'll do the other one. And I may actually trim a good chunk of this out with the scissors. Okay, so now his little feet are kind of brushed out. But he's getting close. He's getting real close to being done. I just wish a lot of this excess fur would get out of my life. No, I didn't. It was straight out of the box. Straight out of the box. I got it from this place online. Maybe I'll track it down and put a link to it in the thing. But it's a 3 or 4 inch Mongolian fur, and I had gotten some blue for another project earlier. Wait, did I get that from them? He had that for himself, but I think I knew it was a Mongolian from that. And so I just ordered it in gray, and I was kind of shocked that this was so bunched up, but it has a great texture for a dog right out of the box. I think maybe if I boiled it, it would maybe go back to that, but I love the way that, you know, all this is brushed or unbrushed, and it looks so much different. Anyway, this is my favorite machine, one of my favorite tools that somebody on one of the puppet forums recommended, and it's a little like Floby that has a, I may have showed this before, but it has all these different heads. I'm going to use a little bit longer one than I used the last time. Wait, I think I'm going to use this one, this size. And you just plug it in, and it has a little vacuum that sucks all the fur up, but it also trims as you do it. So let me show that process. You guys are going to wish I had the mute on again. Okay. So I just want to kind of transition it up to here. There we go. Okay, so now you can kind of see, still needs a little bit more trimming. You can kind of see the difference between that hand and that hand. And it just kind of defines the fingers. I'm going to do the same thing on all his fingers and toes. And I'll do that real quick. And then I think maybe, I don't know. What do you guys think about these arms? I kind of like how scraggly they are. Kind of gives them a lot of character. And now that his chest is this is what I was worried about. I was worried that it would just get lost in the fur, but that difference in the chest kind of makes it easier to see the hands. Maybe I'll trim just a little bit more. All right. So now I'm going to take my little thing and I'm going to try and make it blend a little bit better. I'm going to trim off a few with scissors too. All these scraggly pieces. Maybe I'll use some scissors to actually cut. Okay. I don't want to get in here too close. I just want to kind of even it out a little bit. Okay, so now we have puppet with hands that actually, you know, are defined to some extent. I already did his face. I already did his back. I could trim out his ears, but I kind of like them the way they are. Okay, so I think that might be as much of the grooming as I'm going to do on this thing. Let me show you what I think is so great about this thing. Let me... Okay, so where I would have had fur everywhere, here's all the fur. That's all the fur I pulled off of that. So I can go throw that away. It was worth every cent of the $60 I spent on that thing. Okay, I'm still here. Okay, so next up, I want to get his tongue done. So one of the things I try to do is make my puppets look less like the Muppets if I can. One of the ways I do that is the eyes usually are a lot bigger, sometimes a lot bigger than a Muppet. I think if I use that. But the other thing I've been doing lately is I've been sculpting the tongues out of reticulated foam or dry fast foam. And even though these won't last forever, they're super easy to make. They'll last about 5 years. A lot of the puppets that I've seen built use craft foam, which is like an L200. And I don't know, they look awfully flat. And I've been kind of just enjoying the process of sculpting a little tongue. Of course, I had a pattern here. What did I do with it? Hopefully it didn't get sucked up by that vacuum. No, I especially tried to find that pattern to show. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. Okay. So I have this little pattern, which is actually Tilly's tongue pattern. I didn't actually trace Tilly's tongue, but it's the one I use in the Tilly Puppet. But I also use it on Eddie. So I'll do the same thing here. And the first thing I do is, well, whenever I dye anything like fuchsia or pink, I also dye a little piece of half-inch dry fast foam as well. And I just use the regular RIT dye. And since I have the bath made already, I might as well just do it. And I can make, I don't know, 25 tongues out of this. So you take the double stick tape and you stick it on the reticulated foam. And then I'm going to take my little pattern, and it's beveled here, so I want to make sure I get in from that. I don't even know why it's beveled, but it is. I'm going to trace it onto the backing here best I can. And then I'm going to use my Teflon scissors because I got glue on it. Now I'm done with this. Try and even this out to some extent. I'm going to switch over to my foam scissors. I'm going to taper down the front a little bit, kind of round it off. And then fold it, and I put the little tongue part in there. And you can also hit it with a Sharpie to kind of bring out some highlights if you want. And then you just take off the double stick tape. And what's nice about it being a double stick tape is that you can take it off and move it. Okay, so now he's got a tongue. I don't know if you can see it. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make his teeth. I usually don't put teeth on the uppers. And I'll show you why in a second. But I usually just put them on the lowers. And I usually only put 4 teeth in. The real Tilly only has 7 teeth, so. So this is half-inch. This is half-inch L200. And what I do is I make kind of a trapezoid. And then I chop out. I may not get this in the first try. I can smell that hot glue gun getting ready. I don't use hot glue for very much. Only in putting the teeth in and attaching the noses and maybe attaching the eye to the ball joint, to the whatchamacallit, to the doll joint. So I'm gonna have an extra tooth, but that's okay. There we go. So you basically make these really snarly teeth, and then I chop off the inner two ones to make the canines and the regular teeth. And then kind of round them off so they don't look too vicious. Okay, so now you got these little Dracula teeth. And then I go through here and I have it. So now instead of being I suppose you could do this with the 5mm craft foam. But anyway, so then I go in and I kind of clean these up a little bit. Sometimes I put a little bit of a bevel on the back side. So they look a little bit more like teeth. And dog teeth are usually pretty jacked up anyway, so don't have to be perfect. You can make them as perfect as you want them to be. Take off these points. So now you got these little teeth. And oops. These little teeth, like so. Hey. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these down like so. Let me make sure it looks okay before I do it. It's funny. The tail just got out of my peripheral vision, and I thought it was Tilly walking in the room. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I'm going to take a little bit more off the bottom here. Okay, so now I just have these. And the nice thing is these things are super squishy. And you also have two shots at getting it right because you have the upper and the lower. Okay, so, and I only use the lowers. Okay. So what to do, see if I can get this right. So it's going to go in there like so. Okay, so I'm going to just put a little dab of hot glue on the bottom of it. Try not to get any on my fingers. I suppose I could use super glue too. I don't think I got any glue on this. Nope. Which is good because I need to trim them a little bit more. There we go. And even after they're in, I can trim them a little bit more. Hopefully not trim them too much. Okay, so now he's got his little teeth. And let me show you why I don't put him on top. Because so he looks friendly like that, right? He can actually shut his mouth and you can't even see the teeth. But when I put him on the top, suddenly I feel like he looks a little bit more, I don't know if you can see that. He looks a little bit more vicious, like he's snarling. And I don't really want that, so I don't even put them on the front, the top. But you can do whatever you want. Okay. Let me undo the, let me turn off the glue gun. Okay. Now, this is the last thing I usually do. I think I've gotten everything now. Sometimes I'll go in and I'll add a little dark, Sharpie to it and put some low lights or whatever. I don't think I'm going to do this on this one, but okay. So I do that, but the other thing I do is I want to put the whiskers on, and the whiskers I use a price gun, and all you got to do. Shove it in there real good. And then you chop off the excess. So it really goes a long way to make it look more like a dog or a cat. I usually put a couple in the eyebrows. You just stuff it in there and okay. And even though it's not real noticeable, it's just that little thing that makes it look a little bit more like a dog, but still doesn't put it into the uncanny valley. So I don't even know if you can see him on this fur, but he's got little whiskers in there now. Trying to get him to catch the light. Anyway, the only other thing I got to do is there's about 6 inches of fabric that needs to be sewn up here, and then I'm done. I'm done with this puppet. So I'm going to do that. If you have any questions, let me know. But otherwise, I think Max is done. That's provided I don't accidentally put it in the hot glue, which would be awful at this stage. And check this out. This is how much thread I have left over after this whole project. So I almost used the exact amount of thread that I had. I'm still here. Okay. I'm just happy that this is will be I'll be done with this fur on this project. I'm done gluing. I'm done gluing fur to my hands. So I left this part open so I could get the feet on, but I can't really show you how I did that because you couldn't see it anyway. Yeah, through all this fur. I'm anxious to see what, like I said, the guy I'm building this for um, is a ventriloquist, so I'm kind of anxious to see what he sounds like. Might give him a good brushing, although I'm afraid of ruining this texture. That's why I don't brush my own hair. I'll ruin the texture. And it is kind of bunched up a little bit because these don't exactly, the lining doesn't exactly match the fur. If it had been a more stretchy fur, I could have made it work, but it not. At this point, I'm just trying to get this done. See if I can get it on camera for you, though. And usually I don't sew up the bottom like this. It's only because there's no separate head that I'm doing this. Like if the head and the body were two different pieces, like say on Miss Piggy or, you know, uh, I guess Mayberry's built that way too. Um, I wouldn't I wouldn't sew the two pieces together. But the only reason I'm doing this on here is because the neck is the same piece, and I don't want it to um, uh, get have them go up the um, wrong part of the lining to operate the puppet. One more stitch. It's done. Maybe 2 more stitches. It's done. Tie the knot. All right, and it broke just on time. In time. Okay, make sure all the pins are out, and I'd say Max the dog here is done. So he'll get settled in here a little bit. There he is, all his glory. Oh, I'm gonna put pads on here. I may do one more video where I put the pads on. I got to figure out what I'm gonna do for that, because what I used on Eddie, was he has these are actually the small eyeballs that Stacy Gordon sells on Puppet Pie, and I just shave off. I can take one of those eyeballs and shave it into 6 little spots, and then hit them with Plastidip, and then I just glue them onto the palm. Problem is I don't have any more of those, so I think what I'm going to use are the felt, or not the felt. I guess they're velvet stick-on eyeball pupils that I use on the regular eyes, but I'm going to hot glue them underneath, and that should, or maybe even super glue them in place, and that should keep them on. Kind of have the same effect, but I need to figure that out if that's going to work before I do it. And I'll probably show the process of doing one of those rather than all 4 of the feet, because it's going to be tedious. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll do the next build I do. I'll try to be a little bit better at filming every process of it, and I think I did pretty well on this one. So I will see you next time.